let's start with the cold shower idea. Starting my day, I need the uplifting hope that comes with warmth.
Right.
To
I have
get
a trick
out.
for you if you want to.
What do you start hot and then go
Start
cold?
hot, do cold for the hair because it's supposed to be good for your roots. And I will gas myself up. I'll be like, all right, let's go. I hit the knob. I wait a couple of seconds, and then it kicks in. I go, oh fuck yeah, let's go. Here we go. And then I do it for 30 seconds, and then I turn the heat back on. Welcome back to Oops the Podcast.
All right, lots to unpack here.
I got something for you.
Please. Julio, I don't know where you came up with that idea.
Dude, this guy was a huge turkey.
What is this, Japan?
Which is
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I hadn't told you about it.
No, and I also just assumed you were saving it for the pod if you were going to tell me,
Yeah.
which of course you were.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
Guys, welcome back to Oops the Podcast. I am Julio. He is Francis. And today we are joined by a very special guest. You might know her from the blockbuster podcast, Girls Gotta Eat. She's also the founder and CEO of the Vibes Only app. And not to make this about us, but she is our fairy pod mother. And we almost owe probably a large percentage of our success to her.
Mhm.
She is a force to be reckoned with. Please give it up for the hilarious Ashley Hesseltine.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you.
Looking, got that California glow.
I mean, it's not really. It's rained the whole.
Oh, right.
It has not been this hot there one day.
Wow.
I feel like it's a scam.
Ashley,
It's fine, but like this glow is a New York glow.
really?
I came from the hair salon. The
Wow.
water's better
Interesting.
here. The
Mm.
climate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am happy in LA. I know I don't sound that way, but the weather has been a challenge.
You got
Ashley-
very unlucky.
Ashley was our
Yeah.
first podcast guest ever.
Wow.
We've had her a couple times.
Wow.
We did a quarantine episode.
Yeah, and now
This is
you're
just past our 400th episode, too.
yeah.
What?
Which
We're
is
like
crazy.
402 or
Yeah.
something.
We're not even. We're at 260 something,
Yeah.
And
which is funny.
Well, someday maybe if you keep working, you can reach our achievement.
Zero chance I want to hit 400. I really hope we're retired by then.
Great
But
to
I
have
was
you
gonna
back.
say, yeah, you made the big move. You moved out to L.A.
Yeah.
from so many years in New York.
Yeah.
And you said when you were going that it was temporary. We all knew it wasn't.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I wasn't sure. He thought it was.
I said
he
there's
thought,
no chance.
he thought
they're
you were
coming
moving.
back.
Okay.
he goes, they will love it and they'll stay.
Yeah.
So I cannot find one person who has moved to LA from New York and come back to New York. And I say this and I say it to comics and I say it around in groups and everyone's like, oh, and they like can't name a name.
Interesting.
I think Ari moved out there and then came back.
I always
Many
thought
years
of him
ago.
as a person who lived there first.
Maybe he
Ari
did.
Shaffir?
And then
Yeah.
he's like back
he
and
seems
forth.
like a nomad. Like
Yeah.
where does he even
Mm.
live? He does live in the East Village, but like where I feel like he doesn't count.
Okay.
I agree. I'm fine with that.
I think my
I love Ari, by the
impression,
way.
and you tell me if this is wrong, is that you moved to LA once you've kind of made it.
Sure. It's a lot easier, right? Like I don't know, because my experience has been really nice. You know, like everybody's really nice to me. I was able to get into the clubs, like because we already had success, which was not like so easy here. You know, so that is true. I was talking to Michael Costa about that too. He was like, once you have a little success under your belt, it's way more dope than not.
Mhm.
And I have had a lot of friends out there already, and that is a huge part of it. I wouldn't want to start over new friend group, making friends in LA. Like, I
Mhm.
think it's pretty challenging. We hear that a lot.
Yeah, I believe that.
Like, people see us with all these friends, and we're like, yeah, but like, we're in our late 30s. Like, we've built these friendships. We're not like moving there in our 20s trying to get together like a girl gang. Like, I've met some comedian friends and things like that, but it was kind of, we tested the waters for quite a while before we jumped in.
Yeah.
The metaphor I'm
Yeah,
doing.
you guys would go out there for chunks in the winter, right?
Yeah,
And
when it was warm.
you had such a good network, and it just seemed like such a great place. And I'm really happy you guys are really thriving out there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You guys should come visit. Can you be out there with the sun and stuff? I'm
Um,
kidding. It's not even that.
Yes, they've got creams now. They have creams for people like me.
All right. So Ashley, you've settled into LA now.
Okay.
You're feeling fairly good. Has the weather turned yet in your favor?
No.
It's still bad.
Listen, I don't want to come in so negative. I like
The
it.
weather will turn though. You know that will eventually happen.
Julio, they've been saying that for months. Like, when? Literally when?
Yeah.
And then you'll look at the way that I was checking the weather app for 2 months straight was more than I've ever checked a dating app in my life. Just praying I see a 70 in there somewhere. Like, it was started to become this like obsession because it really rained more days than not.
That's wild.
Like I moved into a house, like signed a year lease, but I was in an Airbnb for a couple months. It was literally falling apart. The ceiling fell in. My first week, it's leaking. Had towels on the ground, and I'm like, if you would have told me week 1 in LA, you're gonna be laying towels out, I would have been like, to have period sex? Like, what am I doing? And lo and behold, it's like leaks, and then the literally ceiling fell in. I was like, thank God I'm out of this home. Like, it was pretty nuts. And again, I understand there was like probably people drowned, and so I don't want to make light of it, but it was pretty extreme. And then it just like hasn't really gotten warm, and so I still love it. But then I looked at the forecast for New York that said 80s, and I thought my app was glitching. Because New York, and when it's warm like this, like June, New York there's no better feeling. If you feel like you're in a movie, it's
nice.
like next level.
I gotta get through the allergies.
Yeah.
I'm getting absolutely
they're getting bad.
crushed. My eyes are itching
No.
so much. So much. But I think we're, 2 months away.
Yeah.
A month away, maybe.
It's this like, just wait. It's like, what?
Yeah.
But it's good. It's like, it's great. I really love it. I feel like New York is like really high highs and then lower lows, and you're a little more tightly wound all the time. Things are more annoying. Things are harder. Things are frustrating.
More stress. Right?
Yeah, totally. People are angrier, like on edge. I feel like LA is just more steady overall, generally happier for me right now at this point in my life, but like not as much of like the rush that you get. You know, you're not just ever gonna step outside. Like even last night, I got in and then I went like for a walk to get some food at like 11, and people are still on the street. I mean, if I step outside of my house at 11 p.m. in LA, like there's no one on the street. I have my dog off leash.
Yeah.
You know, it's like not the same.
Do you still have your apartment here?
No.
So you guys both got rid of your apartment?
I moved out of mine in December.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I know Raina just got rid of hers, right?
Yeah.
Does it feel weird coming back here and not having an apartment?
Kinda. Like I'm in a hotel, you know? It feels weird to like revisit your old life. Like, I mean, when I would go back to Atlanta, I was like, this used to be my whole other adult life. I know moving's not a hot take. Like you move, you start a new life. But
No,
it still was like,
depends,
that was my old.
Well, switching coasts, I especially think after building your entire professional network here for so many. How long were you in New York?
First 6 years.
Oh, interesting. For some reason, I thought you guys were here a little longer.
Raina was
than
here for like 15.
Yeah.
Like
Crazy.
her whole adult life.
Wow.
Has your routine changed at all? Like, are you living life differently?
Yes. It's just like so nice. It's
Are
just
you
like
outside all the time?
leisurely. Yeah, I have a great like
Doing
outdoor space.
Swimming in the ocean.
I haven't even swam in the ocean.
Bodysuit. Bunch of other
Take it
pregnant
up.
ladies. I met a woman at a wedding who was, 8 months pregnant. This woman was awesome. Not that she'll ever hear this, but she told me that for exercise, she goes to the beach in Venice or whatever, and she swims a mile every day with a group. They go 20 or 30 yards offshore and swim a mile.
I am not that strong of a swimmer.
That's nuts.
What does a mile swimming look like? How long does it take?
Let's put it this way.
Wow, must, right?
It takes a long
Can you
time.
look that up, Ryan?
And, by the end of that, you're probably not walking back to your starting point because you're too tired.
Right.
You'd have to swim back to it. If they're going 20, 30 yards out and then doing it?
They go, but they swim parallel to the beach.
Oh, got it.
They swim parallel to the beach.
Got it. So
They're
you
not
have to
going. They're
go-
not. They're not swim.
No, it would take me 3 days. Like, how are people doing that?
I don't know. That's her thing, and she does it every single day.
You don't swim
Even while
well?
she was 8 months pregnant.
I can swim. It's not my strong, like, I'm not, like, I don't really like it. It's just not for me. I love the water. So there was like a 2022, I think I had sex in water the whole year. Like I couldn't, like at one point Raina was like, Ashley, what is going on here? It's like bathtub, shower, ocean, hot tub. Like
Keep going.
Fresh water and salt water.
yeah, pool. Like I am a triple water sign, if you guys care. So Cancer sun, Cancer moon, Scorpio rising. But I do love being in the water. I love being near the water, but I'm like just not such a good swimmer. I just don't really get off on it.
When you go on vacations to places, do you go swimming the whole time? Do you swim a lot?
I like to be in the ocean.
Yeah.
It makes me really happy.
Same.
Do
I
you
feel the same
loiter
way.
in the ocean, or do you dip in and come back out afterwards?
It just depends. Like if
Good question.
it's really cold, if it's like really cold, I just kind of do like a little cold plunge.
We'll dip.
I've been wondering, do you guys do cold plunge at all? Are
Oh,
you in
yeah,
this
I do.
culture?
Big time.
Well, like
You
where
do?
do you do it?
And I will sit in it for like between 7 and 10 minutes.
No, it's so good for you.
I wear boots and gloves. I've
What?
talked about it on here before.
Where do you do it?
There's a cold plunge at the
Like
gym
Ugg
that I go
boots?
to, and it's intended for just dipping in and popping back out. I will submerge for a period of time. And it becomes difficult because I'll go to like here, and if somebody else goes in the water, it displaces the water. So now new parts of my body are feeling the cold, which makes me like revisit getting in initially. So I will move up slightly as they get in
Yeah.
and then back down. But that's my routine.
Are you into it?
I have not. I haven't had it done. I haven't done it yet. I've done it in my life. In college, we used to have one in the training room
Yeah.
as a way of.
Like an ice bath.
Yeah, and it sucked.
Well, are you into Andrew Huberman at all?
Who's that?
I don't know who that
He's
is.
this like, I don't know if he's a doctor. He's like a scientist, like neuroscientist. He's been on like Andrew Schultz's podcast. He's been on our podcast. He's really blowing up, but he talks about it constantly and how good it is for you, how it gets your like metabolism going.
Sick. I've
It's
heard that
usually-
too. Yeah.
He definitely doesn't look like that anymore, but the other picture does, the bearded one. Yeah. You should follow him. He's got like good health tips. But
Sick.
I just am like, it's got to be so good for you.
Have
Oh,
you
for
been
sure.
doing it?
No.
You're thinking about getting into it?
I like the effects of like a cold ocean
Mhm.
swim, but I feel like the women's culture is like hot shower. And
Interesting.
I feel like guys are out here like jerking each other off about cold plunges.
Guys are also into cold showers. That's a big thing. I told a friend of mine,
Must
Really?
be good for
a
you.
buddy,
It is good for you.
a buddy tried to shame me for the fact that I don't take cold showers.
That's what I'm saying.
What are you doing?
This is the thing. I feel like guys are like bragging about this. Like it's how much they can lift. It's like how long they can cold plunge.
Yeah.
I just
did it. I did it before you even said. I said my time. My time.
I would
period.
brag about it too.
Yeah.
I have a hard
done it.
time. Let's start with the cold shower idea. Starting my day, I need the uplifting hope that comes with warmth.
Right.
To
I have
get
a trick
out.
for you if you want to
What do you start hot and then go
start
cold?
hot, do cold for the hair because it's supposed to be good for your roots. And I will gas myself up and be like, all right, let's go. I hit the knob. I wait a couple of seconds, and then it kicks in. I go, oh fuck yeah, let's go. Here we go. And then I do it for 30 seconds, and then I turn the heat back on.
You also just feel like for a woman, you feel skinny. Like nothing's worse than being like, hot and swollen.
Yeah.
Like, are you ever like so cold? You're like, I'm so small. Like your rings are loose, and you're just like, I'm
Yes.
so tiny. And then
Yes.
it's like a hot day, and you're like, my ankles are triple the size.
You're the blob.
yeah.
You become the blob.
Mm-hmm.
Brah.
Yeah.
It's hot.
Yeah, my nipples get great in cold.
Gray.
No, great. They're
Great.
just my favorite. That's
Oh,
my
yeah.
favorite. It was
Cold
when they're
nips?
cold. Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
nip.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want my nips to like not be cold. Like just a breast without a hard nipple. I'm like, ew. Like
Yeah.
on myself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. No.
You know,
Grossed
you want them
out.
out.
Total
Interesting. I like that.
Total ick.
How has your love life been in LA? Have you been making love?
Am I making love?
In
Have
the
you been
That is so
ocean?
funny. Like I just recorded with Andrew Collin. He was like, "Have you sucked a dick in LA yet?" And I was like, "I sucked one last year in LA." I've been on some dates. I don't know. It's just like It's not better. It's not worse. It's like the same.
Oh, really?
Well, here's the thing. I want to talk to you about this. So let's just talk about this as friends. Francis, I was going to do this tonight on stage because you always have such good like workshopping and tags. Cool. But we'll just do it the three of us.
Great.
Yeah.
So, this is true story, and we'll just talk about it together. So
Great.
here's what
I like
is
this game.
Here's something that happened in LA that I can never see happening in New York. So I did go on a date with a guy. I did meet him on an app. You guys might know this app. It's TaskRabbit.
Really?
And
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
because like in LA, they're all actors and models.
Yeah.
The TaskRabbits?
Yes. So I'm like, if you're in LA and you're not using this like a dating app, you're doing it wrong. You get their photos and then they just come over and they build stuff and you watch. Like, why would you not pick the hottest one?
Yeah.
I mean, Raina is just, it's a hot guy parade in and out of her house every day. She's just like picking the hottest TaskRabbit she can find. The guy that's been coming over recently played college football. He's a model, an actor, and he's just in her home building stuff.
Oh, cool.
And that's like a fun fantasy too. Like,
Yes.
Have you guys hooked up with the TaskRabbit?
So I did go on a date. So
With
I'm
the
like
TaskRabbit.
with the TaskRabbit. So this was the day I moved like from the Airbnb to the forever home, 1-year lease, and it was raining. To move in the rain is just hell on earth, you know. So there's no worse day the way you look when you move. Also, you're
Brutal.
just like, you look like garbage. What clothes did you even wear? It's raining. So I wasn't thinking I was gonna meet a guy that day, but he comes in and I like text Raina. I'm like, I think the TaskRabbit's hot, which is foreign to me. I've used it in New York, but never was it some hot dude, right?
No, usually in New York, they are literally foreign to us.
Vasil.
Yeah.
My guy.
Or it's just like a middle-aged guy from Queens, or, you know, like a handyman, like what you would think of as a old school kind of handyman vibe.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? And I had to be on a call for something like for a while, and then got to talking to him, and we talked for like a while. And then here's the move, if anyone's wondering how to get their number to connect, is that you're like, well, for me at least, this is what I do when I've passed it on to Raina. You can be like, could I hire you, direct next time, off the app,
Yeah.
and then you exchange numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this without
Right.
the
Rover, dog
romance.
walkers. And listen,
Yeah.
you should be in the app for security. I'm just telling you, you live your life, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't totally advise you should keep it within the app because there's like insurance there's someone, whatever. But this is how, if you really are like, I want to fuck this dude, that's how you do it. So we just started texting. He did a great job. He put my bed together, which I will say a little life hack is if you're like, oh, we should like test it out. Like, let's see.
Did you say that? Did you say that?
I didn't say it. It's in the bit.
Oh shit.
Oh, nice.
When he put together the bed, I couldn't figure out if he was hot yet, but that is what you can say. You should be like, we should see if it's sturdy, just like, let's throw some weight on it,
Yeah.
So we end up texting, and listen, this guy's he's not for me. It's fine. Like, we did go on a date. Well, I mean,
You went out. You already
we did go out. We went on like a lunch date. He started to get a little fan, like he started to be like, I'm listening to your podcast. I was like, please don't do that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but he was a totally nice guy, and we went on like one like lunch date. I really enjoyed talking to him. It just wasn't like a love match.
So if he hadn't brought up the pod though, he might have had a better chance.
No, I just don't.
The fact that he was
I don't know
on
that
TaskRabbit is not exactly. What was his rate?
It's not what. It's not what.
So I would like to give him some business advice, quite honestly. He's an elite tasker. He's done so many tasks, and his rate is not a comp. It's too low.
How much is it?
How much?
I think it was like in the 50s where it should be
It should be in the 70s.
It should be the 70s. Everybody's inflation has hit TaskRabbit like nothing else. Like nothing's below really the 70s in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just, he is an actor, but like
He's trying. He's
okay,
out here
let me ask you
hustling.
guys this. I feel comfortable talking about this because no one knows who this person is. He's never gonna hear this. Well, you never know.
He might.
Just pretend.
That
he
wasn't a
won't.
dig to you guys.
Don't.
No, he might.
no,
It sounds like he's a big fan.
here's
though.
I want to hear it, and I don't. And I
Okay.
don't want to scare you off.
So someone that's been doing, let's open it up. Let's broad scope. Someone that's been doing something for 20 years, comedy even, stand up, acting, singing 20 years and not any success.
Mhm.
Like, at what point are you like, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I think it's fascinating. Like, if you're 20 years in, any actor in LA, 20 years, and you really haven't had speaking parts, it's been very like, you're still kind of in the extra world. Are you like still waiting, like it could happen one day, like, and using other people that it happened to as your example? Or I don't really know. It's just, it's interesting to me because I also think of comedy. Like, you're 20 years in and you have not really done much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But comedy to me is still different because, like, you could still go up every night and make people laugh, and that's like you're fulfilling your passion. It's a little different. But like, if you're really not, I found it interesting.
Do you have a take?
Yeah, like the reason why they stick with it is because in their fucking acting class, there's a guy being like, Samuel L. Jackson didn't get his first big break till he was 51.
Yeah, John Hamm was living in his car when he was cast on Mad Men. Fucking, you know, all these people. They know that story is all they're thinking about.
But like, I actually want to know the details of that because people will say that about Steve Carell, and I'm like, I'm sure he was doing something more than like grocery store man number 2 after 20 years, but I could be wrong.
No, like, if you look at I've done this before, this exercise, because, okay, John Hamm, fine. But if you look at his like IMDb situation, he was in a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
He was working as an actor in significant.
That's what I'm saying.
Same story.
Totally. And in the car story, I have a problem with because a lot of the time it's like they lived in the car for like a couple weeks and they were crashing at friends' houses.
Right.
And it was in between their leases. They weren't living in a Walmart parking lot.
Right.
You know
they weren't homeless. Or like typically what you would assume. They could be living in some like cool ass van.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a friend in a van right now. It's dope.
There you go. And I'm sorry to the person who the story is actually true. Like, you were homeless living in a car. Like, I'm sorry to like discount that story, but I'm always skeptical of that story because I know most of the time it is not as like rags to riches as it sounds.
Well, it's
to
kind
your
of
point.
To that person, if that person that is their story, that's almost insulting to use a story that it's like appropriating that story.
Yeah.
Right.
I have an additional take
Truly
on this situation of, you know, why are you still in it? I think what happens is that people who set out with the dream of becoming a famous movie star, the next Tom Cruise, and 20 years later, they're not Tom Cruise. They still have learned how to make money in acting. And they're maybe doing commercials.
Sure.
They're doing extra work. They're doing acting. They're teaching acting classes.
Totally.
And even if their dream has shifted or changed and they are now realistic potentially, I don't know that every person who's 20 years into acting is still thinking, I just need to be seen by the right person.
And I agree with your take. And if you can do what you love and make a living off of it, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No matter what it is.
Yeah.
I just am like, at what point is it really there's not been anything? And I'm like, you should just start a construction business.
I know. I think
with all these talents.
The other part, I think, is that if you don't want to have a family and you don't feel the need to have kids and money isn't a huge driving force for you, then there's not as much urgency to make it big in acting. And, you know, you can be a happy person, as you said, doing some version of the skill you love doing.
Totally. And like, also, that was like, these were questions I was going to ask this stranger, and it comes across really condescending and insulting, but I'm genuinely curious because I'm also like, your life seems pretty cool. You make your own schedule, you travel a lot, like, but is the acting dream to me is so fascinating, the same as anything else that you would do for 20 years with really like little to no success. But I was comparing it to, like, Rain and I were talking about this guy we know, like, just, you know, which is so many guys' story of like doing comedy for 15 years with no quote unquote success. But I'm like, I don't know, you still get to get up and make people laugh and you make a living enough. Yeah. Like, that's really all some people care about, like you said. Anyway.
It's funny, you know, Louis C.K. talks about that, and Bill Burr, and yet you go back and you see clips of Louis on Conan, you know, before he was a known guy. He, you know, he wrote on, speaking of Steve Carell, so Steve Carell was at Second City. He was doing really well there, and he got cast on the Dana Carvey show, which ran for one season and was panned initially and then became this gigantic cult classic, but was too controversial and too meta and got canceled. But that show, for that one season, the writing staff was like Louis C.K., and then the actors were Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert, Dana Carvey. I mean, it's Robert Smigel was on it. There's so many. I think Robert Smigel. They were still working. You know, they were just sort of cobbling it together.
Yeah, that's
Right,
my
like a big
issue. What
job.
Julio said is like the fake rags to riches
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, exactly.
It came out of nowhere. It was in his car. It's
Right.
like that's not true.
Right.
It's rare to see that story, and I tell people that a lot. Like I can pinpoint like 2 or 3 examples of people who like got something out of nowhere and overnight their life changed.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not common. Even when people get a big break, it doesn't always immediately mean anything.
Yeah.
Even if it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to your point, yeah, the rags to riches story is like typically less sexy than people think.
Yeah.
Funny. I
So
would
anyway.
actually say that getting Barstool changed my career overnight.
Yeah, you potentially have one of those for
It
sure.
really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing late night at the Strip for 2 years. Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
No.
And mics and bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grinding.
Yeah.
So I wonder though, the Taskrabbit, is there a chance that he is what?
No, I'm reflecting.
Forgot
Like
we were.
I
Yeah.
was
You guys
No.
were supposed to come up with tags for that bit. So where are we at?
Oh.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We'll do it again tonight. We'll do it
Tonight.
on the show. It'll
No,
be
but
fun.
I have a couple questions though about the Taskrabbit. I was just like, I don't know, transitioning.
You're the task when he comes over.
Well,
What do you want me to do today?
Well, my whole thing is like
I could use some work.
like someone that's like trying to make it an entertainment. There's a world in which they could want to see me as what I have with the podcast and even whatever it is, our agent, whatever, and kind of see me as to use me essentially. But my bit is like he's never going to use me as much as I'm going to use him. Like I have so much more furniture to put together. Like I have shelves to mount. He says he doesn't mount. I'm like, you're going to mount. I'll teach you to mount. But yeah, so it's just funny because this happened in real life and we went out and now she has taken it and ran with it. And every day it's a new update on the hot Taskrabbit in her home. And so she'll fuck with these guys eventually.
She hasn't hooked up with any of them yet?
No, it's only been like a week or two since she moved into this new home and she's warming him up, I think. Like
Yeah.
it's not as easy. I mean, you're sober, it's not really you got to kind of
Makes it exciting,
It's hard
though.
to, but like one guy, he took his shirt off and she was like, "What's about to happen?"
Yeah.
He was just like hot, but she really thought like it's about to happen.
I was going
Wow.
to suggest that you should try to seduce them. That's my challenge to you.
They shouldn't try. Yeah,
Try to seduce them in the moment. Like when they come, be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just getting out of the shower." And like you have your
Yes.
towel on, you run in. Maybe you purposely
Great idea
leave
with
the door open just a bit, and like you're putting your hair back and putting your bra on from the back, but they can't actually see the front. You're like really just and make it ambiguous. Like, "Ooh, is she?" And by the end of that, I challenge to see if one of you guys can hook up with them before they leave on the first time they come in.
Yeah,
So
you should compete over
the
this with
problem
Raina.
is like one of them I thought was going to be hot and I feel like a little catfish. Like it was an old photo. He showed up and really did not look like his photo. And he was also like so small, but he did a great job. So I sent him to Raina and I was like, call Michael. Michael's really great. He's quick. He's so polite. And so she started work. Mike was at her house every day. She didn't want to fuck Michael. He just wasn't it. But then he started to get flirty and he started to get flirty with me. One day you told me I looked really pretty. You loved my outfit. And I was like, Michael's getting a little flirty and I think I'm going to go back to Igor for the mounting. And then so I like said, Michael was like at her house and she's like, Ashley,
Igor.
I can't use Michael anymore because I am trying to fuck these guys. And so now she's just going straight hot guy. And like Rob, our best guy friend Rob, he's like finding these guys on the internet. He's like, Seth played college football. Like, what is going on? Like, it's wild.
That's crazy.
I like the idea that you two are willing to let the integrity of your furniture suffer because in the interest of finding better looking
They've all
task
done a great job.
rabbits.
Also, I look for the elite taskers.
Yeah,
You know.
you got to.
Yeah.
You got to.
Also, I want to be clear, we're not like sexually harassing these people. you know, like your audience is probably like, wah. I'm telling you that these guys come in with sexual energy too. Like I want to know how much they are hooking up with the client. Like you can feel it.
You
it's
should
like
ask
palpable in
that.
the room.
Yeah.
That's a fun icebreaker.
Have you ever hooked up with?
Be like, have you ever hooked up with? Like, I'm just curious. Like, I'm not trying to like.
Not that I would, you know.
And he's like, well, this one time, and you're like, ooh, yeah, like, tell me about it.
Right, and then
He
it's like
starts
this
telling
like
you.
sexy
Sexy
story.
tale.
Yeah, that's a really good way to.
And then if he
tip
says
his
something
hand.
about like wine, you're like, oh, I have wine here. I don't. If you would want a glass, like just.
I don't
stay.
even
I love
think
it. How about I draw
But
you a
you
bath?
have to find out.
Yeah.
But at what point does the clock stop?
Would you like
you
an
can't-
ice cold beer?
Yeah, right. He charges you for the extra hour that you guys spent in bed.
Right, like that would suck to like suck a dick and then you get charged for it.
Yeah. That's wild.
And Taskrabbit's like, this is our convenience fee. I mean, I just think outside the box for dating apps. You know what I mean? Like I always ask at my shows, like who was hooked up with their Uber driver. It's more people than you would think.
We had a crazy Uber driver hookup story where a guy hooked up with his female Uber driver and they did all this weird kinky
It
ass
was
shit. And he
nuts.
came to our live show and showed us the video.
It was almost disgusting.
He showed us the video of him and his like older, much older female Uber driver like edging and like doing all this like.
Himself getting a blowjob. I was like, dude, I wasn't ready for this.
Yeah. It's funny. He showed me and I was like, awesome. I was like, show Francis.
Yeah.
And he's like, G said you'd love this. Francis like, I do not love this.
I don't want to watch your porn near my
Fuck
wife.
yeah, dude.
What are you doing, man? Let me have a drink first.
So he met her in the
She was the Uber
like
driver
they started to connect over the ride.
during the ride.
Because
Yeah.
I hooked up with our driver in Greece last summer. Like I tell this bit, like
Yeah.
it wasn't an Uber driver. It was like we had a driver and he would come or he would send another guy. This particular guy was like so sexy and we ended up like hooking up that night. It's one of my absolute favorite stories.
Where in Greece?
In Mykonos. But I'm like, I always am so curious about how it starts. Like the flirtation. Like one time in Miami, I felt like the Uber driver and I were flirting. But then what? Like, I guess someone just has to cross the boundary.
Yeah.
Are you talking about in the car?
In the car, like, how do you get to the point?
You have to cross the boundary.
Like, for me, I mean, I guess it's not that much different than what happened with me, but it wasn't via Uber. I don't know. This guy just started flirting with me hot and heavy. And as soon as I got out of the car, our friends in the car were like, what is happening? Like, what is going on in this van? You know? And as soon as I walked in the house, he was already like WhatsApping me like, oh, Ashley, you're so spicy, like whatever. And then it was like on. But it also, I don't know that he's really supposed to do that, but who gives a fuck? You know, like it was funny because Raina, I was like, I never heard from that guy again. She's like, yeah, Ashley, what do you think? Of course the drivers fuck the tourists and then never talk to them again. I'm like, oh, right. No, totally. I thought it was gonna be like my Mamma Mia, like Greek lover. I'm embarrassed. I was like, he never.
funny.
I still had 2 nights left on the island.
I
Like,
wish I could
Eat,
tell
pray,
him I was
love.
pregnant. Ugh.
Dude.
well, then I go into that. And I say that I did call him and say that I was pregnant.
Dude, that is great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, I love the idea too that she's like, oh, obviously, and you're like, oh yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
No, the way I wish you guys could fit in when she said it. She was like, yeah, Ashley, the drivers fuck the tourist. I was like, she was like, you didn't think you were a mark? I was like, oh.
He said
I just thought we had a connection.
He said I seemed like a Greek princess. I felt like a native in his arms.
Yeah, seriously.
I
How old
wasn't
was
a
he?
tourist with
In
him.
his headlock, he really had me in a chokehold.
That's right. He was.
But he did jujitsu, so I was like,
jiu-jitsu
he's
guy.
just practicing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh man.
How old was this guy?
I think he was like 33.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here's a question: do you feel, based on your podcast and your live shows, that in some way you have a conscious or subconscious goal of creating a content in your dating life that takes precedence over, you know, where the success of the romance might go?
So I don't like set out to come up with stories, but it's I would maybe go out on a date that I wasn't thrilled about if I knew there would be like a story at the end of it or something. Like, it is on our minds. Like, I'm not out here fucking with people or seeking out content, but for me, someone that doesn't do what I do might like not have gone on that date or might have not done this thing, but I'm a little more motivated.
Yeah.
For the content.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah.
You're I would say you're more adventuresome.
And kind of, like Raina too, she hooked up with this guy and like he was whatever. They both were kind of fucking with each other via text, like really just short answers, like funny, crazy stuff. And she went back and forth with him in like an insane way. It actually went like 5 million views on our TikTok.
Oh
it's
my
like,
God.
It's the only thing we have that did that. But basically it was New Year's Eve. She goes back with this guy, 1-word answers. It was so funny. He was doing it too, and she read the text exchange on our podcast. We clipped it and it blew up on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then there was more to it that she does at the live shows too. It's even funnier. And it's like, I think she's just like me. You're a little more motivated to like entertain yourself sometimes, like, because she knew nothing was gonna happen with that guy. Like, he had kind of fucked with her to begin with, so she was like, let me just get some good content out of this. And then at one point he was like, are you doing this for the podcast? And, and she was like, no, I'm doing it for the live shows. Like, it's just like funny. So
Solid.
Wow.
Yeah, I just don't. My fear would be that someone thinks I'm using them for like the bit, but if I really like somebody, that wouldn't be the case. But, sometimes you're just like, this is going to be a dope story. Go out with the Taskrabbit or whatever it is, fuck the driver. So,
right.
I love it.
It's interesting. I wonder whether if you met a guy who you really liked, if he might be worried.
Yeah.
That he was going to, or that, that he wasn't being taken seriously, or that,
Yeah.
Have you run into that?
I mean, not that anyone told me, but maybe, it could be a reason why people wouldn't want to date me. I think it's a challenge. I think it's, we always say, like, what's the alternative, though? Like, I would hope that I want people to always meet me and not knowing what I do, like, I would never share with a stranger or on an app that I even do stand-up or the podcast. I'd rather you meet me in person, and I think you can tell for yourself that I'm not out here, like, trying to get a bit out of this, and I think I would have to, if I started dating somebody and I really liked them, was serious about them, it would be a conversation. Like, I'm also happy to conceal the identity of my partner forever. Like, I feel like people don't know who Alex Cooper's boyfriend is, right? Like, maybe people have found out, but they didn't. I don't know who it is. Like, I'd use her as an example because it's clearly been an effort to not share that.
Yeah.
So it would be tough for me to date somebody that was like, never talk about our relationship.
Yeah, I was going to ask
even if it's like, I'd prefer that no one knows who it is and then I talk about the relationship as opposed to like someone knowing who it is and having to keep, I don't know. It's just kind of, I do understand it. And I do understand, like, I want a guy that's successful in the world. I could see a guy that's like a CEO being like, I can't have my employees hearing about you sucking my dick. Like, I do get it. So I think that it would, hopefully it doesn't, I'll find the person that it works with and then it's like a conversation. We just navigate it together,
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, there is a way to, I mean, you are so observant and you're going to come up with funny shit no matter what. So even if you were in a relationship and maybe, the specifics of the sex life, your partner had an issue with that, there'd still be so many abundant things that you could talk about.
Yeah.
It could be done. Like, do you think that it would be possible to date somebody and him not be cool with you sharing intimate sex stuff, but fine with you sharing the rest of the stuff? Do you think you could do that? I
think it's like a cross that bridge when you get to it. Like, for me, I feel like somebody that is like crazy private, I know there could be different reasons. Like I said, you could have a thing where you're like, the girls that work for me listen to the show. You can't talk about this. Like, it's weird. But if it's just like you take yourself a little too seriously. You're crazy private. Like, we probably just wouldn't work anyway.
Right.
Like, I've just never been that kind of person. It's not how my family is. I just feel like we probably wouldn't mesh anyway. But I think it would have to be, I would take it really seriously. I want to find somebody. I'm not a like comedy trumps all, you know, like I have had a good run. I'm not quitting anytime soon, but like, it's not this like, if you don't let me talk about your dick on stage, we can't be together.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah.
I just think it would have to hopefully find the happy medium. So I don't really have like a straight answer. Like, do you guys run into this? Like, do you have like boundaries or off limits?
It took a long time for me to figure out the right way to, you know, speak about Sierra in my act and on the podcast in a way that was respectful to her, but, you know, also funny and true. And it was hard. I will say that I'm very lucky that I found somebody who, from the start, was totally cool with it, you know, in general. And just knew that this is who I was and that I used my personal life as material. But I've, you know, crossed the line a couple times, and you know, she doesn't always necessarily the one to tell me, but I've learned like, oh shit, whoops. And you kind of just get better and better, and I think finally now we're in a place where I know if I've said something on the pod like, whoops, that, you know, I don't know if I want that out there, and we've gotten good at telling the guys like, let's cut that.
And we are good at policing each other too. Like if I say something that he's like, you don't want to say that, I'll be like, oh shit, you're right. I mean, and vice versa.
Julio's literally saved my life a few times.
Well, that's good too. You sometimes can't. You need somebody from the outside to be like, I don't know if I would say.
Yeah, it's amazing how we completely trust each other on it, but there are times where he'll say and I'll say, wow, really? I didn't know. But you always defer because he wouldn't raise it if it wasn't.
Totally.
A problem.
But it's interesting you mentioned that because, like, I remember a lot of my jokes were about like being like having shitty breakups basically before I had like this new like solid relationship, and like over time I've like burned that entire like all of that material because I just don't relate to it anymore. Like I don't, which is like such an interesting thing. So like I have close to no interest in talking about how relationships didn't work out. You know what I mean? Like for me. So like I lost that. And then like any sort of like sexual stuff, like I would never share any, like I would just feel too self-conscious about the possibility of embarrassing her somehow. Like I would never want to like overshare with that kind of stuff. So it's like not that hard to avoid. And there's plenty of shit to talk about. You know what I mean? Like, and quite frankly, like I almost take pride in that where I'm like, oh, I can never talk about that. It would make her embarrassed. Not even if it's not about her, even if it's about like another thing, I'm like, whatever, like that was low hanging fruit anyway. Then I'll come up with something else. You know what I mean? And maybe that's just like a way to balance it out and make it work because my relationship's important to me. And like, maybe it's more important to me than having every topic available. I'd rather take some topics away from my repertoire and have a nice relationship. Like I said, plenty of shit to talk about. I once asked
Sierra permission if I could try a joke on stage. And it was, you know, it was about her dad passed away a year or two before we met. And it was very sad, you know, obviously they had an amazing relationship, and I asked her, and I was nervous to ask if I could try a bit about how, you know, my wife's father passed away, so luckily I didn't have to ask his permission to marry her or anything like that. I don't remember what the bit was. And she kind of laughed at me, and she's like, yeah, that's fine. He would have loved that. That moment to me where she laughed and was like, yeah, he would have loved that. He had a great sense of humor. Made me so sure that I was marrying the right person. And it was such a great response, and I was just thrilled by it. Ultimately, I never figured out the bit, but you know,
I mean, I do comedy, and I wouldn't there's some things I wouldn't want my partner to say if he also did comedy.
Totally.
You know, like it's not a free for all. I don't think. I think you should be able to talk about it and like specifics. Like I don't see why not. I wouldn't want somebody to just be like, "What? Everything's on the table." It's like, no.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
people know who I am. It's
Yeah.
not.
Right.
It's
Could you date a
embarrassing to
comic?
me. I did. In Atlanta, we dated for a while. It was significant. We were like, you know, super in love. There was one thing he posted one time. It wasn't even on stage. It was just like, which was kind of, it was on social media, which is like it's worse to me. It's not like a fleeting thing on stage. It was like a thing that was posted, and I just really didn't like it. I felt like it reflected poorly on me. It was about him like meeting my dad, and it was just, I hated it. And we got in a huge fight, and we fought all the time, and we were like a volatile couple, and we just weren't equipped to like deal with each other's shit. So it was like nothing new, but I was just like, I hated that he couldn't understand why I didn't like it. And I was like, just delete it. Like, why? You know, that would go immediately. If my partner was like, I just don't like the way that's just not sitting with me, right? Like, I approached it tenderly to start, and it should just come down.
Yeah.
You know, like that
Yeah.
is like, that's pretty gross to me. It's not that it's in your special or your hour. It's like, it's just a thing you thought of, just take it off social media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he kind of clung to that as like me trying to control him. And I was like, this is not it.
Mhm.
So that
was like the catalyst for the breakup.
no. We stayed together for probably 2 more years after that.
Oh,
Beginning
wow.
of the end. Beginning of the end.
The beginning of the 2-year end.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it just, less than that, but it just, I wouldn't want to be that kind of person either. Like, I don't know that there's comics out there that are my friends that are like, no, it's comedy sacred. I can say whatever I want about our relationship. And,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
but-
that's a cop out.
Yeah.
That's a cop out. Well,
Awesome.
what a treat.
Yeah.
This is so fun, you guys.
Really great.
Yeah.
What a treat to have you. Guys, that's Ashley Hesseltine.
Welcome back to town. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
You have that nice West Coast glow about you, which I know you would say isn't, but like you do have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, I do feel relaxed and happy. I fall asleep every night. I don't toss and turn.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I was like, I never thought I could be this person
Mm,
that just falls asleep when you get in bed.
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
So I do think I'm just less anxious, and just, that's New York. You're just tightly wound.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
You can catch her on her hit podcast, which many of you probably already listened to, Girls Gotta Eat, with Raina Greenberg. And you guys are on tour all over the
Yeah,
place.
we just announced our tour through the end of the year.
Amazing.
So we're everywhere. We're even going to London.
Oh my
Sick.
gosh.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then we'll end it in New York at the Beacon.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, everything's at girlsgottaeat.com. Actually, we got the girlsgottaeat.com.
Sick.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Fuck
Had you
yeah.
been fighting for that?
We
with
just
someone?
never. It was Girls Gotta Eat podcast, and then we just were like, let's just pay for it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like someone had it. It was just like, you know, it wasn't astronomical, but it was significant. But we were like, it'd be nice.
Yeah.
So
Sick.
Girlsgottaeat.com. Julio, are you performing live comedy anywhere soon?
Yeah, I am in Middletown, Connecticut tomorrow night, actually. Harbor Park free
Oh.
show, but it's ticketed. So grab those tickets. My website, notjulio.com. And then Yonkers Comedy Club last weekend of the month. Come see me there.
Awesome. I'm closing out the first leg of my tour, the Hero We Need tour. We're at Cobb's in San Francisco,
Ooh.
the end of April, and then Charlestown Races Hollywood Casino in West Virginia, May 12th with a little Sasquatch. Tickets at francisellis.com. Lots more dates coming up in the fall, guys. I can't wait. Big cities that we're hitting: Boston and Washington, D.C., and Providence and Seattle and Toronto, bunch of fun spots. So all of that coming soon. And thank you guys so much. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you guys for having me.
Obviously.
it.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.